It's time to mind your business with me, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in to find out how to mind your business with BEDC, special guest entrepreneurs, industry experts, and more. Brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here. Good afternoon, gentlemen. Welcome to Mind Your Business. I am pleased to have you here, Dr. Ernest Peets Jr.
Thank you.
And Mr. Tyrone McHardy.
Yes.
And you guys are co-founders of MASC.
Yes, we are.
Yes.
So I am going to give you an opportunity to tell us what MASC is. But before we do that, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself? And I'll start with you, Mr. McHardy.
Sure. So thanks again for inviting us and having us here on Mind Your Business. So, as you said, I'm Tyrone McHardy.
Yeah.
I've been working in the field of education for the majority of my life, and largely in the human services field altogether. And that's pretty much who I am as an individual, I would say. So my work is, I guess, representative of who I am. So I'm someone who seeks knowledge and likes to impart knowledge with others. I've furthered my education through seeking knowledge. I think I have done that even with my son. So I'm a father of one.
Okay.
He's an adult. He has himself, I think, going on a journey of being a seeker of knowledge because he's going through college and got what he's gotten to obtain. But even apart from being a seeker of knowledge, in that capacity, I am someone who enjoys the internal arts. So I practice Tai Chi.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it helps with my self-care and work-life balance. And so I'm cognizant of not only just pursuing one thing, but making sure that I am someone who holistically takes care of himself.
Love that. Yeah. Dr. Peets.
Yes, also thank you for the invitation. Actually, my first degree is actually in business management.
Okay.
Yeah, I graduated from Howard University in 1993 with a bachelor's degree in business administration.
Okay, HBCU.
Came back to Bermuda and worked in the Treasury Department at the Bank of Butterfield.
Okay.
And also did some management accounting with Trimmingham's when Trimmingham's was still Trimmingham's.
Remember Trimmingham's?
Way back in the mid-90s. But eventually I kind of had a call to human services and went back to school, finished my master's, went on, did my doctorate degree in marriage and family counseling, eventually got certified as a family therapist as well as an addiction counselor. I met Tyrone, of course, as well as Fitzy, the other co-partner at MASC, in the early 2000s when we were working at court services at probation. So all of us have been working sort of in the human services field since the early 2000s, and we're certainly grateful for the opportunity to actually bring all of our experience and as well as our passion for mental health into a boutique service for men.
So yes, MASC, what do those initials stand for?
Actually, it's not an acronym.
It's not. Well, tell me.
It's actually short for masculine.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're guys and we're quite simple.
Yeah. See, we always try to overcomplicate things, right?
Yeah.
I love it.
So
okay.
it's actually short for masculine, but also it's a play on words.
Right.
So the first four letters of masculine is MASC, which make up MASC Bermuda. It's also a play on words as relates to MASK,
right,
which is wearing a mask.
Yes.
And emotionally, that's what a lot of us do each and every day. We get up in the morning, before we go and face the 9 o'clock traffic and drop off our kids to school and go to work, we put on this emotional mask. And for most men, we've been wearing that mask so long that we eventually kind of lose touch with who we are. And so there is a bravado and a sort of a outward personification that the world may see, but inside, I'm confused, I'm hurt, I may be depressed, I may be anxious, but I don't know how to talk about those things or where to go to get some help. And that's what MASC does. It helps men, or creates an opportunity for men to have a conversation with other men to be able to unmask.
So let me ask you guys this, because I agree with you. I do think that society and people in general have this perception of how a man should be and how they should react to their surroundings and things.
Yes.
Which doesn't always take into consideration what's going on inside, right? For them to be able to show up externally the way we think that they should be, quote unquote.
Yes.
How did you determine that there was a demand for that specific service offering? The other thing that they say about men, and why I'm asking the question, is that because they're expected to be this person, they don't actively seek out someone to have a conversation with about what's going on internally, right?
Sure.
Which means like, yeah, I need it, but I'm not going to come and get it, right? So with those kind of conflicting things, how did you guys figure out that MASC would work?
Right. Well, in my estimation, I think it was something really in the zeitgeist. So there was something where we were hearing terms like toxic masculinity, or these negative terms to describe masculine or even manhood.
Yes.
And because of those negative connotations, as well as there's, I think, growth in education in terms of what mental health is and who can benefit from it. With that combination of events in the zeitgeist, we, I think, had our fingers on the pulse, if you will, and recognized that, there is an opening. There is an awakening of men who understand that there's not just one form of masculinity.
Yeah.
It's not the stereotypical form of masculinity. In fact, being stoic, or outwardly stoic, or what have you, is not masculinity per se, but it's actually being able to be self-aware, being able to identify what's going on with you, and being able to address it and correct it. And so that is the basis or foundation of MASC and who we service.
Yeah. Another thing that we noticed, of course, Ty, myself, and Fitzy, we've been in this field since the early 2000s, and there's a few things that we've noticed. One, given our experience in the criminal justice system as well as in education, by and large, I'm not saying in every single case, but by and large, most men or young men who find themselves in trouble usually begin the counseling part of their journey after they've already been identified as a problem.
Right.
When I was working in addiction counseling, most of these men had never seen a social worker or a counselor until after their addiction had actually flourished and caused them not only pain in their physical life, but also in their emotional life and in the life of their family. They got a criminal record.
Right.
And now, after all these years, finally someone is beginning to talk to them about, well, how did this all start in the beginning?
Yeah.
Because they never got the help when they were younger. The other thing that we would notice that going into the educational field or to the social work field or the counseling field, men don't usually fill those spaces. Those spaces are predominantly filled by women.
Right.
Women naturally gravitate towards those industries, including nursing, for example. And so we really, really understood, based on our experience in working with a lot of young men, that if they are going to access services and perhaps may have more productive conversations about changing their life, it will be easier for some of these clients to be able to have that conversation with a male. And there weren't a lot of options available for them, either through education or through social work.
Yeah.
So are you finding that though? Like, I agree with you. You know what I mean? It's almost like I get in trouble and now someone's telling me you need to go sort yourself out. And so they're pushing you or forcing you to do it. You still may not want to do it.
True.
But once you do it, you're like, I should have done this
a long time
ago. Like, no wonder I was acting like that. No wonder I did these things, because I had all this emotional trauma that I haven't been able to deal with. So that's one way that I would assume that you get your clientele, because you're like mandated to have to go. But since starting the business, do you see a change, and do you see a willingness for men to actually come and get the support that they need without anyone else saying that they have to do it?
It's slow, but yes. It's slow, but yes. The stigma's still there.
Yeah,
So
it is. What is that? Who did this stigma thing?
I'm not really sure what the origins are, but no one would disagree that there is a stigma around mental health in general.
Yeah, there is.
But when you break it down between the genders, women are more apt or more likely to seek help than men.
Yes.
And that's the reason why we've created this space. We haven't seen men come in droves.
Yes.
But we have, first of all, to get the word out there that
Yeah.
there is a space. Now, we're not the only option. If you want to go into another clinical practice to find help, then please go to another clinical practice and find help, because the help you need, you just need to get it.
Right.
But if you're not going to get help because you don't have someone to talk to and you want to be able to talk to another male therapist, that's the reason why we're here. But we started during the pandemic,
Okay.
which from a business point of view was
What y'all doing? No,
which is-
like what you doing?
which is extremely risky.
Yes, it is.
Fitzy, of course, is not here, and so he would tell the better story about how he was able to convince himself and convince us that this was a good idea. But talk therapy requires this sort of relationship where you're in a room with another trusted individual
Yes.
to talk about some sensitive things. But during COVID, we had like social distancing, we
Yeah.
had lockdowns. So we had to sort of introduce this therapeutic model
Yeah.
in the midst of COVID during all of these restrictions. So a lot of that, of course, was, through Zoom
Yes.
and whatnot. So that was a bit of a difficult period for us. But people have told us since day one that we're glad that you guys did it, because COVID and all of the restrictions and lockdowns did expose the fact that all of us have a lot of stuff that we're dealing with.
Yes, we do.
And we certainly would benefit from having a place where we can go and talk about it.
Now, speaking about the delivery of the service, right? Typically, like prior to COVID, it's in person and face to face. Did you find that being able to provide this service via Zoom, was that better for your clients? Better for you? Because I would imagine it's a lot to get up
Yeah.
and walk in and you're like, okay, forget the stigma. I need this help. I'm going to go get it. Versus I'm at home. I feel safe. I can shut my door. Nobody's in here but me.
Right.
And then if I need to, I can keep my camera off.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So how did that kind of dynamic work with what you started?
Yeah. You know what? One of my first clients was primarily online. It was telehealth, where we were Zooming. I never met this client actually in person, to be honest. And it was beneficial to him because that's how he wanted to engage. And I was comfortable with that medium because, as I alluded to earlier, I work in education.
Yes.
So when the pandemic hit and we went into lockdown, schools were out, we were at home. So we had to quickly adapt to working in a virtual world. And so I was comfortable with that. And my client, that's what he desired because of his work schedule and other needs. And it worked well, I think. And we saw growth and progress as a result. So I don't think being in person or in a virtual reality, I don't think one is either. I don't think one takes away from the other.
Right.
I think they're both beneficial and can be delivered equally for the best results. Yeah.
It gives you options.
Yeah,
Right?
it does, certainly does. And we still do some sessions by Zoom. Usually my sessions post-pandemic now with on Zoom have usually been with the adolescent population.
Okay.
Working with kids who are in school. Sometimes they're on school suspension. They're home. And because they don't have their own transportation, it's just easier for
To
mom
do
and
it,
dad to organize the session via Zoom. And the kids are used to that now because they've done a lot of the online learning with Zoom.
Right.
So I've had some success with it.
So let me go back because I know you explained, what you do, but who are you catering to? Like, what's your target market, right? Because you mentioned adolescents.
Sure.
So
Sure. No, that's a good question.
Well, the website says 13 to 113.
Oh, okay,
Exactly,
okay.
exactly.
So everybody.
For everybody.
For everything. There you go.
Okay.
So we have clients younger than 13.
Right.
I haven't had a 113-year-old client yet, but as far as we're concerned, what we're trying to reach the male population.
Full stop.
Full stop.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
And but we do get a number of calls from wives and girlfriends and moms,
They like
And
fix
what-
him. He needs help.
and
Somebody help him.
we can provide ancillary services to the companion.
Okay.
However, the primary client has to be him.
Right. I got you. interesting. So the ancillary services, what does that look like?
Right. So sometimes it's couples.
Okay.
However, the primary client
It's still the man.
is still him.
Okay.
Right.
Okay. All right.
Right. So if she showed up and said, hey, we need couples counseling, then it's like, well, hey, listen, we're going to have to talk to him.
Yeah.
And he's going to have to be the one to actually set up the sessions, initiate those sessions.
Right.
Going forward.
Okay. I love that. So you mentioned starting during the pandemic, utilizing Zoom. Is your primary customer physically in Bermuda, or do you guys have within your business model to provide support services to men all over the world?
No, right now it's just local.
Yeah,
Okay.
they're primarily
Yes.
in person. We have had clients in the past who have started out with us in person, or perhaps they're overseas in college or university. They travel abroad, and so we will continue servicing them, but obviously virtually. But as Pete said, that our primary client is done in person, in house.
Yeah.
So let me ask you guys this. And I know I make this whole list of questions, and you like, she ain't asked one of them questions yet.
Yeah,
she asking us all these different things. But when it comes, Bermuda's small, right?
It is.
Yes, it is.
It is. Yes.
Right?
Yes. Everyone knows everybody.
Everybody knows everybody.
Yeah.
Before I get home, they done told my husband, "Oh, I saw your wife. She was in St. George's, and she why he know before
This is it.
So because that's our reality,
Yes,
right?
yes.
That everybody knows everybody. How does that impact your ability to get people to feel comfortable that when they come to see you, that their information, whatever it is that they're sharing, is safe?
Yes.
Like what does that look like? How do you navigate that?
So we have a couple of things that I think that work for us in that regard. So the first part is our location. We wanted the location to be central, but we also wanted it to be accessible, but not like right on Reed Street,
Right.
or right on Church Street, where if you're coming in for counseling, people watching you go in and out. So we're in Hamilton, but we're tucked away on Chancery Lane.
Gotcha.
And you don't show up at MASC by mistake. You can't accidentally bump into us.
Right.
If you're at our office, you're literally there on purpose, because it takes a little bit of information and guidance to actually find the door.
Right.
And so where we're located provides, a high degree of privacy and a high degree of confidentiality. We also do no paper.
Okay.
It's
Everything's
absolutely
digitized, yes.
digital.
Yeah.
And the client has a client portal where he can access all of his information, schedule his appointments. All those things are all done online, on a phone, on a computer, on your tablet or desktop. And so when you come to the office, that environmental piece has been taken care of.
Okay.
To really allow, the individual to say, hey, listen, one, the place is professional. Two, it's trusted and confidential, and there's no paper. So nothing slipping through the cracks.
Right. Okay.
And just to add to that, generally during our intake, we share with the client the confidentiality rights.
Yeah, we have to,
Definitely. And we even sometimes mention that if we see each other in public, it's they're not obligated to speak or engage.
Yeah.
But because Bermuda, we're friendly, we invariably do. But those things you don't have to. You're not obligated to.
Right. You won't take it personally.
You won't take it personally.
Because you know how we do. You'd be like, I saw she didn't even speak.
Exactly.
Well, that's good to know. And I would think also, if you are considering scaling up and providing those services, then it creates an opportunity to support people outside of Bermuda, right? Because it's like, well, nobody knows me in Bermuda, right?
Right.
We can certainly explore that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
It does expose a bit of an obvious barrier outside of the stigma of going to counseling and involving a third party to help you to find solutions to problems. Getting and finding good help is also expensive.
Yeah.
And males who need it the most are sometimes the ones who actually don't have the means to actually afford it.
Yeah.
So, we do take insurance, for example, but I mean, how many men are out there that are underemployed? They may be hustling and working, but they don't have all the frills and benefits of a pension and health insurance and whatnot.
And when you're looking at your list of priorities, it's like mental health,
Groceries.
Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
food,
Sure.
paying bills, light bill,
Utilities,
all that stuff.
yeah.
So it starts
Okay.
going further and further down the list. When really, it probably should be the top
I
priority.
just gonna interject to say that because
Yeah, I agree.
if you don't have that equanimity,
Yeah.
you're going those areas in your life will be affected. The
Of
work,
course they will.
the ability to generate money. If you're
Yes.
stressed and have other kinds of issues going on, that would impact that area of your life. So yeah, maybe we need to figure out how
Readjust.
to readjust.
I want to know
Absolutely.
how we normalize getting care and getting support, right? Especially for men, right? And men of color, even worse. Like, Black people in general
Yes,
are
yeah.
like, therapy. What's wrong with you? Something's wrong with
Right,
you, right?
right.
No, nothing's
Yes.
wrong with me. I'm trying to make sure
Yeah.
that
Sure.
nothing's wrong with me. So, what are the things that we can do, either as a society or you, as Black men yourselves, to kind of normalize coming to get support? Is okay. It's fine.
Right.
There's nothing wrong with that.
I think we're doing it now through this podcast, so we're sharing in that aspect, and hopefully there are men and those who are close to men out there who can share this podcast with them, because that's actually part of our mission to normalize mental health services for men, for Black men, because as you mentioned, we tend to keep our issues to ourselves. I think it's be helpful if we actually bring in young people in the field of psychology so that they can be counselors themselves. And so that could be an avenue. I mean, when we have clients, I think really like we're getting the clients that we have because they see themselves in us. And so if we can...
Which makes sense.
Yes, absolutely. So if we can galvanize young men to enter this field, I think that could be a way of normalizing the profession. Where you see men in it, but also for male clients to participate in it.
Right.
So yeah,
And I think the Western world is making some strides in destigmatizing mental health and making services available at the prevention level, but also trying to increase access as well. So insurance companies, for example, are now more and more making these benefits available to those people who are part of their insurance network. Also, I know companies, particularly HR companies, are sort of concerning themselves around wellness, which is, hey, listen, if I can create a work environment where my workers are healthy, that includes physicality. So a lot of places are now giving their employees pedometers as a way of increasing activity. But a whole part of that wellness is also mental health.
Of course.
And so during the month of November, for example, we had an opportunity to do a few lunch and learns.
Okay.
And that is, just a 10, 15-minute presentation, at your office over lunch, invite your male employees to come in, and we just have a conversation about mental health and sort of increasing everyone's awareness that one, we need to pay attention to our mental health. And two, well, if I did have an issue, whether small or even large, well, what resources are available to me so that I can actually get the help that I need as opposed to potentially engaging in negative coping behaviors. Because Bermudians, we have a favorite coping behavior.
Yes, we do. As the holiday season approaches.
And that old faithful coping mechanism, as fun as it can be, is also wrought with a lot of negative issues as well.
For sure.
and just to add to the topic of normalizing mental health, hopefully in the short years to come, mental health is perhaps not viewed separately from the other subsets
Just
of health.
health. Just health.
In general,
Right?
because this body cannot work without the mind.
That's
and,
right.
the
mind is like leading it.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So it's all health.
Yes. Maybe that's the first step. It's just health.
Yes.
Right?
There you go.
Exactly.
Not mental, not physical, just health.
Health.
We just want you to be right.
To be healthy.
So you mentioned Fitzgerald Williams,
Yes.
who we had the pleasure of meeting because he participated in one of our first men-only events for Global Entrepreneurship Week, which was the Next Man Up. And we were talking about this very topic. And it was specific to men. And so the dynamic within the organization. So we've always had this Woman in Entrepreneurship Day conference that we held annually, right? This was the 5th year that we did this year. And so the men in the office would be like, well, what about us?
Yeah,
Well, why we not doing, why you? So this year we had the panel discussion, and one of the topics was health and wellness, and Fitzgerald Williams was able to come and participate. So grateful to him for that. And he's also one of the co-founders of MASC. What I want to ask you though is when it comes to work-life balance. We had during Global Entrepreneurship Week, we had a gentleman here who presented, and he said he doesn't refer to it as work-life balance. He just says life balance. Right?
Smart man.
I wanted to get your opinion on that. What do you think about that?
Well, the whole question around work-life balance, I think we're dealing with the most obvious of the issues, and that is stress accumulation. And acute stress has some very, very damaging effects on the entire person. Fatigue, lack of focus, irritability, loss of productivity, damages work-related relationships, can even aggravate a toxic culture environment, and it's just the worst for everyone. So that's the reason why we talk about work-life balance, because if you do not take care of your stress accumulation, it's going to affect both your personal life and your work life. However, we're living in a very demanding work environment and a very demanding economic situation. So people are under an exorbitant amount of stress to keep their bills paid, to keep the mortgage paid, to keep the kids fed and in school, and also try to find time to keep themselves happy as well. And that's not really an easy thing to do. And so this work-life balance then becomes a real question. But as your previous guest had indicated, well, you need to have your whole life in balance. And be able to put things in perspective and to engage in what we would call self-care. So I think that's where the conversation is probably about, is stress accumulation, self-care, and wellness. So an easy thing, because this conversation came up yesterday when I did one of my lunch and learns. And I was like, well, when is the last time you've taken a lunch hour?
I know.
Well, so your labor has argued for years to get that benefit.
And you're not even exercising.
And you're not even using it. You know, it is a lunch break. You know, so every once in a while, take a break, actually take your lunch, leave your desk, leave your cubicle, leave the office, and for an hour or so, whatever your lunch break is, do something for yourself. Because in the end, what happens is the work is still there. And then you become resentful that you're working so hard and not getting the benefit from it. So go take your lunch.
Prior to this broadcast, Pete and I were joking about work-life balance and how some men consider the work to be the how they achieve balance.
Interesting.
More work, because they think men typically are providers and want to get out there and do. But as Pete has pointed out, there has to be a balance. So even as that gentleman you spoke to, life balance. So to be able to consider all aspects of your well-being. So
we kind of reward the workaholic in that regard.
We do, right?
They seem more productive, they seem more energetic, and they seem to get the most benefit out of the organization because they're workaholic. But it does come at a cost. And sometimes the workaholic is actually working so hard because they're actually avoiding something somewhere else.
Look at us getting off. Wait a minute, let me pull my chair back.
And that's where our conversation was going. If I want to avoid some stressful situation at home,
I'm gonna be at work all the time.
Why not stay a few hours later at work?
Interesting. That's very interesting. I mean, I do think that culturally, from on a whole, society says if you work hard, you're going to benefit from it. But the balance is where you have to look at, well, if you're working hard, what's suffering as a result of it? Right? And so then I ask the question, or I'm thinking, what are we doing it for in the first place? Like, what is the point of working? What are you trying to achieve ultimately
Exactly.
for your life?
Yes.
And if it involves any of this over here, well, you got to fix it, right? You got to try and even it out, because you be working hard and this will be like, okay, see you later. I got to go because you haven't given me what I needed, right?
Yeah.
All the more important while your work should be fulfilling. And if your work is not fulfilling, then your paycheck is not a reward. So one of the things that I try to do, particularly with when we're doing our vocational assessments and we're working with 12th and 11th graders, people who are graduating from high school, going off to college, they need to figure out what their career choices are. That is not an easy thing to do. However, one of the prevailing thoughts is, well, what economies and what jobs are paying the most money? And then that's what we will go and study in college for. But it doesn't take into consideration my personal interests. It doesn't take into consideration my personality and all the things that really make up me as a real person.
Yeah.
And what would happen sometimes is I may be making a lot of money, but I'm miserable.
Unhappy.
I'm unhappy. I'm out of balance.
Yes.
And the paycheck is not a reward anymore.
Yeah.
And I've seen people all the time, and I've been on a bunch of hiring boards. I've never seen an individual leave a company. I'm seeing an individual leave people.
Interesting. Right?
We switch jobs. We don't switch industries and stuff like that. We're getting away from people.
Right.
Looking and exchanging them for another set
of people.
Right. Hoping that set of people, the environment there and my experience there is beneficial to me, including financially. But financially is not the only thing.
You know what? You bring up a lot of good points. And I think because our primary objective, BDC's primary objective, is to support entrepreneurs, right? Yes. And so we see entrepreneurs who've gone to law school, who've become doctors, and have left it all behind to start making body scrubs.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so you're like, what? I'm sure their family's like, I'm not understanding. Like, we just invested all of this. This is what you were supposed to do. But it speaks to what you said. That's not fulfilling me. Yes, I can get this big paycheck. I can do all the things. But at the end of the day, I'm not happy. Right. So instead of exchanging this set of people, they're like, I'm going to create my own set of people, right? And do the thing that really pours into me and makes me happy and that sort of thing. So I think it's interesting that you say that, because I don't know that we encourage our children to do that. I can say for sure, I have a son, I have an 18-year-old, and my husband and I have different opinions about, what he's been doing. And going back to what you said, it's like, where can you go to make the most money to whatever? But I think his logic is that by making the most money, you can now live the type of lifestyle that you want, right? Because you have access to funds that will allow you to do that. So forego all of that fulfillment and, what you need to feel whole. Forego all of that for a period of time so you can make the money. Then you can go out and get it. And is that the wrong message?
It's a risk. Yeah. It's huge. It's a huge risk.
Yeah. Ideally, and speaking of the vocational assessments, ideally you want to assess the students' interests and match it against their strengths.
Right.
And so, with your example, the person who opens up who studied law, they opens up a nail salon. I mean, they don't have to, disregard the law degree, because it probably helps in negotiating.
I'm sure. Yes.
And contracts and what have you. But ultimately, the goal would be, a strengths-based kind of approach where you're, assessing what is it that they're really interested in, what is the young person, where do their strengths lie, and what careers match or align with those same strengths.
Let me ask you this, because I think when you live in a country where there's millions of people and millions of opportunities and all of these different types of jobs, you can be like, yes, lean into that. What do you want to do? You want to draw? Sure. But in Bermuda, where there is a finite industry or a specific career kind of for those who are not going to be entrepreneurs, how do you tell your child, or how do you encourage your child to lean
Right.
into whatever makes them happy when you know good and well,
Yeah.
if they want to draw, when they come home, nobody's hiring an artist,
So
right?
you certainly pointed out the obvious, and I did indicate in my previous answer that it is a risk, and I understand the risk quite well.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right. Our economy is not as diverse as, let's say, America or Canada, for
Right.
example. We may have individuals who may be more right-brained and may lean towards the arts and creativity and things of that nature. And that's who they are.
Yes.
And a vocational assessment will highlight that and then help them to narrow down careers within that field. But ultimately, we know as a mom or dad that that industry in Bermuda doesn't afford the type of economy and jobs for you to actually live off.
Right.
And so let's be more practical.
Yep.
And so I get that. I mean, even when I was younger, I enjoyed sports.
Yeah.
And we have recreational sports here. There's no professional sports.
Right.
There isn't a sports person on island who solely makes their money off of their sport.
Right.
Because we don't have professional sports here.
Right.
So eventually my mom and dad were like, hey, listen, you need to stop focusing on sports and start paying attention to your books. Because they were being more practical.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I have a son now who's 16.
Right.
He's pretty decent with the practical stuff of the books, but he lives in a global world now. So he wants to play football professionally. So his whole idea is, well, my real job after graduating from high school, if he had it his way, he would move into the professional ranks.
Right.
But I know that's a numbers game.
Yes.
Right? The likelihood that he gets selected to go pro are like 1 in a million.
Yeah.
But these kids live in a global world. They know people who've done it.
Yeah.
Nikki,
Right.
Yeah.
Nucky Wells,
Yeah.
his family live in my neighborhood.
Yeah.
So my son can't come home and say that it's not possible.
Right.
So we're not talking about possibilities, we're talking about probabilities.
Yeah.
So our job as mom and dad is to continue to focus on their education without hindering his passion around football.
How you do that?
It's very difficult.
Like, where's
It
the
is
secret key
very
for
difficult.
that?
It's a constant negotiation.
Oh my gosh.
It's a constant negotiation, but we are successful at it to some degree because we're aware of the dynamic.
And so that's the
Right,
key,
right.
awareness, right?
Yes.
I think it would be remiss if I didn't add that there needs to also be a paradigm shift where we're not educating young people for just a job. I mean,
Yes.
we're at the BEDC.
I would
so,
agree.
We're about
100%.
we're in an environment where you promote entrepreneurship.
Yes.
So, it's there is a way to achieve one's desire or to pursue their dream, whether it's in creative arts and what have you, as well as to be able to make money doing it.
Yeah.
And that could be through entrepreneurship, and you would know that better than me. So, the paradigm shift has to, I think, occur, and there'll be a balance. So, education largely, and I work in education. I've been working in education for about 20 years now, and the model of education is centered around
Getting a job.
getting a job.
Yep.
Yeah, rather than raising
Independent
Independent
thinkers,
thinkers,
and creativity.
problem solvers.
critical thinkers.
Yeah.
Right. Which are the
And
individuals who
business
actually
owners.
expand the economy.
Yeah, they are.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
You are.
We're trying. We're
Yeah,
trying.
yeah, yeah,
We're
yeah.
trying.
Listen, I feel like we could be here like all day. I'm
Sure.
in, right? I'm
Sure,
like,
sure.
I know I'm not a
We can
man,
always-
but I'm enjoying this conversation.
We can come back for part 2.
Okay, I would love that. I do want to give you an opportunity. We've talked a little bit about work-life or life balance, as
Right.
Brian would say. But I do want you to share some tips, okay? Because we know that sometimes it's not in balance. I'm guilty of it. We'll just work straight through lunch and not leave early, still trying to get it out. So what are some tips or recommendations that you can give to those who are listening about how they can consciously bring their life into balance, like on a day-to-day basis?
Okay.
First of all, I think you have to be intentional with it and develop a daily practice. So I have a daily practice. I'm not suggesting that anyone follow this, but perhaps someone can get some inspiration from it.
Mm-hmm.
But I wake up early in the morning and I engage in prayer and meditation. Then I go out and exercise. This is usually just before the sun rises,
Mm-hmm.
and it's something therapeutic about being in nature
Mm-hmm.
before the sun actually rises, and get working that cardio
Mm-hmm.
and reflecting, and actually even setting goals for that day, because the day hasn't started for me. It's still early in the morning.
Right.
Whatever that daily practice the person chooses to implement, I think that's key.
Mm-hmm.
A daily practice could be, like I said, meditation, exercise, affirmations. I think are helpful. I mean, we get bombarded with so many negative stimuli. Having a mantra or some affirmation that grounds the individual.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a healthy way to maintain one's well-being.
Yeah, the only thing I would add to that is to just capitalize on your intentionality.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things that I found to be helpful in my career, not just including what we're doing here at MASC, but in some of the previous places of employment, is two things. One, at the beginning of the week, to write out a list of intentions.
Okay.
These are the things that I want to get done at work this week. So, and actually write it out.
Yes.
So I don't have all of this 100 things on my head. I can't do 100 things.
Right.
But I can make a list of 4 things, or I can make a list of 5 things.
Mm-hmm.
And it helps me to put my work week and all of my to-do things sort of in a priority.
Okay.
So at the beginning of the week, set out what my intentions are. When I get to the end of the week, I tick off the things that I was able to achieve.
Mm-hmm.
You know what that does for me psychologically? It makes me feel like I've done something.
Yeah, you've done something. Yes.
And I can prove it.
Right. That's right. You like newspaper.
As opposed to being at the end of the week, well, what did you do this week?
Right.
Well, I done everything.
Listen.
Well, what did you really do? Well, I did a little bit of this, I did a little bit of that, I did a little bit of that,
Right.
So make that list, and at the end of the week, do the achievement piece. But for the work-life balance, I have to put something on there, on my intention, that helps me to fulfill the goal of work-life balance.
Interesting.
And including, sometimes it could be, take a lunch, go for a walk.
Put it on the list.
Yeah.
Right, I put it on the list.
Put it in your calendar.
Put it on the list.
And men actually like lists.
Yeah.
I've been married now for 25 years.
Yes.
I hate it when my wife sends me to the store to go get stuff. I'm like,
Can you
Write it down.
give me the list?
Yeah.
Right.
but she'd be like,
Text me.
she'd be like, I told you. I'm like, no, don't tell me.
Give me a list.
Right, I'm very task orientated.
Yeah.
Just give me the list. I don't want to be wrong.
Yes.
Yeah.
And
You know what? You guys need to have sessions for women because we be trying to figure it out. We're like, what do they want? Why you don't understand it? Listen.
I'll give your female ladies a little tidbit on communicating with the men in their life. Don't ever start with the question, how do you feel?
Okay.
Men are unable to go from 0 to feelings. Women can do that at the drop of a dime.
Yeah.
Because you're in tune with your emotional self.
Right.
Not only are you in tune with it, you've been in tune with it for years, and you got the vocabulary to go along with it.
Yeah.
Men are not built like that. If you want to find out how the man really feels, you don't ask him how he feels right away.
What do you do?
You're going in too fast, and you're going too deep.
Yeah.
Ask him what he thinks.
Right.
Semantics,
Yeah.
right?
No,
Because it
not
means the
semantics.
same
No,
to me.
No, it's not.
Even if it does, it doesn't mean the same thing to me.
Yeah.
Ask me what I think, or ask me what my opinion is. Through that conversation, if you stay with it, eventually we will
I
get
can
to
say how
how
he
I
feels.
feel.
Very interesting, and I'm serious about this thing for women.
Yeah.
It'd be like, so, ladies,
Yeah.
you want to get better results out of your significant other. do this. Because what do they say? Men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Yes.
I mean,
There's a lot of truth to that.
Yeah, it's a little truth to it, right? It sounds crazy, but it's true. Like the way we communicate makes a difference.
Definitely.
Feel and think. Who knew?
Yeah. Well, it ties into, we had mentioned it earlier about how, you cannot separate the mind from the body.
Yes.
Women particularly are more in tune with their bodies because a lot of things happen with your bodies.
Yeah.
So you're able to quickly point out, oh, this is happening in my body. This is why I'm feeling this way.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I need to do. Because you have that connection.
Mm-hmm.
Men particularly don't have that connection with their bodies. Like I could, I had a mini health crisis earlier this year.
Mm-hmm.
I was sensing some changes. I even looking visually in the mirror, I'm saying, okay, some changes are occurring, but it wasn't obvious to me that, there's something wrong with your health.
Right.
Too much too later on, obviously. But I think, like I said, because women have that innate connection with their bodies because of the nature of it, I think equips you to have a higher level of emotional intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
One thing what we do at MASC is we teach our clients, who are all male, how to develop and foster this emotional intelligence, how to get beyond the I feel angry, happy, sad. There are secondary and tertiary level emotions, and so we try and develop that. And it's all about education. I mean, as I said, I'm an educator in counseling. It is it does lend itself to educating clients, and it's important that we develop our emotional intelligence.
I agree 100%. Listen, you might have a client. My husband gonna be like, "Where am I going? Don't worry about it." Listen, I've enjoyed our conversation today.
Thanks.
I would love for you to give us how do people find you? What's your website? How do they contact you?
Yeah, the easiest way to reach us is either online at massbda.com.
Okay.
Or you can find us on LinkedIn or on Instagram.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
Well, gentlemen, I have thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Thank you so much for sharing some tips. Write it down, okay? And put the lunch on the list.
Yes.
If you want to find out how a man feels, ask him what he thinks.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yeah.
I'm going to try that tonight. I'll let you know how it goes. Listen, thank you so much again, gentlemen. And we always end our show with, if you don't mind your business, who will?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for tuning in to Mind Your Business with me, your host, Jamillah Lodge. Tune in next week, Thursday at 4 p.m. because if you don't mind your business, who will? Mind Your Business is brought to you by BEDC. Bermuda Business starts here.